house and prove it wasn't haunted. "Are you scared?" one of his friends teased. "Of course not," Tom replied confidently. "There's no such thing as ghosts or witches." The other kids, curious but too afraid to go themselves, urged him on. Finally, Tom decided he would go into the forest the next morning and find the house, if it really existed. His best friend Lily, though nervous, decided to go with him. "You're not going alone," she insisted. The next day, just as the sun was rising, Tom and Lily packed their bags with some food, a flashlight, and a map. The forest was thick with towering trees and tangled vines, and as they ventured deeper, the path became narrower and more overgrown. Strange sounds echoed around them, the rustling of leaves, distant cawing of crows, and an eerie wind that seemed to whisper their name. After hours of walking, they reached a small clearing, and there it was, the scary house. It was old and covered in ivy, with broken windows and a roof that sagged in the middle. The air around the house felt colder, and the trees seemed to bend inwards, as if trying to hide it from the world. "Wow," Lily whispered. "I didn't think it would be real." Tom swallowed hard. "Let's just take a quick look and go back." The front door creaked open with a loud groan as Tom pushed it. Inside, the house was dark and musty. Cobwebs hung from the ceiling, and the floorboards creaked under their feet. The walls were covered in peeling wallpaper, and old, dusty furniture was scattered around the room. As they explored further, they found a grand staircase leading to the second floor. "Let's check upstairs," Tom suggested, though his voice wavered slightly. They climbed the stairs carefully, each step making a loud, echoing creak. On the second floor, they found a series of old, wooden doors, some of which were slightly ajar. Tom and Lily exchanged a glance, nervous but determined, and decided to open one of the doors. Inside was a child's bedroom, with an old rocking chair that seemed to move slightly on its own. The wallpaper was faded, but they could still see the faint outlines of painted stars and moons. find it. He followed the flow of water, and as he went further, the air grew cooler. Just as the riddle had said. As Johnny journeyed along the stream, he made new friends. First, he met a squirrel who offered to guide him through the tricky parts of the forest, where the trees twisted and turned like a maze. Then, a wise old owl perched on a branch told him to look out for the hidden dangers of the forest, like slippery rocks and thorny bushes. The most unusual friend he made was a fox who had once been trapped by hunters. Johnny freed the fox from a net, and in gratitude, the fox decided to join Johnny on his adventure. Together, they made an unstoppable team. At last, the map led them to the Cave of Echoes, a dark and mysterious place where every sound echoed back twice as loud. At the entrance of the cave was another riddle, carved into the rock. In a cave so deep and dark, find the light that holds the spark. With his heart pounding in his chest, Johnny and the fox entered the cave. Inside, they could hear their footsteps echoing endlessly. They found themselves in front of 3 different tunnels, each leading deeper into the mountain. Johnny remembered the riddle and looked around for something that might give off a spark or a light. Suddenly, the fox pointed toward a faint glimmer coming from one of the tunnels. Johnny and the fox followed the light and, after a short while, found a glowing crystal embedded in the wall. Beneath the crystal was a treasure chest.
Edimacore Best AI Avatar Video Generator. Over 120 AI avatars and 50 animal images for you to pick from.
Simply pick an avatar.
Type in your text
and instantly create AI-powered videos.
Food? Not begging, but I'm here. Studies.
Pets? No thanks. Walks away. Judges. Spring's coming. Nuts, nuts, nuts. Choose.
You can also upload any photos you like to create personalized AI avatar videos. Download Edimacore now and try it free.
Once upon a time, in a faraway kingdom, there lived a beautiful and kind-hearted girl named Cinderella. She lived with her cruel stepmother and 2 selfish stepsisters who treated her very badly. They made her do all the chores, like scrubbing the floors, washing their clothes, and cooking their meals, while they enjoyed a life of comfort. Despite their mistreatment, Cinderella remained kind and patient, always helping others, even though they never showed her kindness in return. Her only friends were the animals of the house, birds, mice, and a loyal dog, who loved her for her gentle nature. One day, an exciting announcement came from the royal palace. The king had arranged a grand ball, and every young lady in the kingdom was invited. The king wanted his son, the handsome prince, to choose a bride at the ball. Cinderella's stepmother and stepsisters were thrilled and immediately began planning their outfits. Cinderella also dreamed of going to the ball, but her stepmother laughed at the idea and said, "You have nothing to wear, Cinderella. You can't go looking like that." Instead, she ordered Cinderella to help her stepsisters prepare for the ball. As the stepsisters left for the ball in their finest gowns, Cinderella was left behind, feeling sad and lonely. She went to the garden and cried, wishing she could go to the ball too. Suddenly, a bright light appeared, and in front of her stood her fairy godmother. The fairy godmother smiled warmly and said, "Don't cry, dear. You shall go to the ball." With a wave of her magic wand, she transformed a pumpkin into a beautiful golden carriage. She then turned mice into elegant white horses, a rat into a coachman, and lizards into footmen. Finally, she waved her wand over Cinderella, and her ragged clothes were turned into a stunning ball gown with delicate glass slippers. "You must leave the ball before midnight," the fairy godmother warned. Because at the stroke of 12, the spell will break, and everything will return to its original form. Cinderella thanked her fairy godmother and excitedly stepped into the carriage, ready for the most magical night of her life. When Cinderella arrived at the royal palace, everyone, including the prince, was amazed by her beauty and grace. The prince immediately asked her to dance, and they danced together all night, completely enchanted by each other. Cinderella had such a wonderful time that she forgot about the fairy godmother's warning. As the clock struck midnight, Cinderella suddenly remembered and hurriedly ran from the palace. In her haste, one of her glass slippers slipped off, but she didn't stop to pick it up. She rushed back home just in time for the spell to break, and everything returned to normal, except for the glass slipper, which remained on the palace steps. The next day, the prince declared that he would marry the girl whose foot fit the glass slipper. He searched the entire kingdom, visiting every home and trying the slipper on every young woman, hoping to find his mysterious dance partner. When the prince arrived at Cinderella's house, her stepsisters eagerly tried on the slipper, but their feet were far too big. The prince was about to leave when Cinderella stepped forward. Her stepmother and stepsisters tried to stop her, but the prince insisted that she try on the slipper. Once upon a time, in a far-off kingdom, there lived a beautiful princess named Snow White. She had skin as white as snow, lips as red as blood, and hair as black as ebony. Her beauty and gentle nature made her beloved by all who knew her. However, her stepmother, the evil queen, was deeply jealous of Snow White's beauty and kindness. The evil queen was obsessed with being the fairest in the land and frequently consulted her magic mirror. Each day, she would ask, "Mirror, mirror on the wall, who is the fairest of them all?" For years, the mirror responded that she was the fairest in the land, which pleased the queen greatly. However, one fateful day, when the queen asked the mirror the same question, it gave a different answer. "You, my queen, are fair, it's true, but Snow White is even fairer than you." The queen was enraged. Her jealousy boiled over, and she decided that Snow White must die. She summoned a huntsman and ordered him to take Snow White deep into the forest and kill her. As proof, she demanded he return with Snow White's heart in a box. The huntsman obeyed and led the unsuspecting Snow White into the forest. But when he raised his knife to kill her, he found himself unable to go through with the horrible deed. Moved by her innocence and beauty, the huntsman confessed the queen's evil plan and begged Snow White to flee into the forest and never return to the castle. He brought back the heart of a boar to deceive the queen, leaving Snow White to run for her life. Alone and terrified, Snow White wandered through the dark, dangerous forest. Strange creatures and eerie sounds surrounded her, but soon the animals of the forest sensed her kind heart and began to guide her. They led her to a small, cozy cottage hidden deep in the woods. Snow White knocked on the door, but no one answered. Tired and hungry, she entered the cottage and found it filled with tiny furniture, small beds, and a dining table set for 7. She noticed that the cottage was very messy, so in gratitude for finding shelter, she decided to clean the house. After a long day of cleaning, Snow White found herself exhausted and lay down across the 7 little beds, falling fast asleep. Unbeknownst to Snow White, the cottage belonged to 7 dwarfs: Doc, Grumpy, Happy, Sleepy, Bashful, Sneezy, and Dopey. They worked as miners in the mountains, digging for precious gems and metals. When they returned home that evening, they were surprised to find their cottage cleaned and a strange girl sleeping in their beds. At first, they were wary of the stranger, but when Snow White awoke and introduced herself, they were charmed by her sweet nature. She told them her sad story of being hunted by her evil stepmother. The dwarfs, moved by her plight, invited her to stay with them and promised to protect her. Meanwhile, back at the castle, The evil queen once again consulted her magic mirror, expecting to hear that she was now the fairest. The film begins in a luxurious mansion where baby Bink Cotwell, an adorable infant from a wealthy family, lives with his loving parents. They are preparing for a photo shoot with a famous photographer. But unbeknownst to them, three bumbling criminals, Eddie, Norby, and Vico, plan to kidnap the baby for ransom. Disguised as photographers, the trio manages to kidnap baby Bink. However, things quickly go awry. While the criminals argue about what to do next, baby Bink crawls out of their grasp and escapes, beginning a delightful journey around the bustling city of Chicago, completely unaware of the danger surrounding him. With the criminals in hot pursuit, baby Bink innocently wanders through the city, following the path of events from his favorite bedtime book. Along the way, the baby encounters various people and situations, all while unknowingly evading capture. At a construction site, baby Bink crawls across steel girders high above the ground. The criminals chase him, terrified for their own lives, while the baby safely toddles across beams and machinery, causing all sorts of chaos. In the park, baby Bink meets a friendly gorilla at the zoo. The gorilla becomes protective of the baby, preventing the criminals from reaching him, leading to more humorous failed attempts to kidnap the infant. On a city bus, baby Bink continues his journey, with the kidnappers always a step behind. Each time they get close, some ridiculous mishap occurs, leaving them frustrated and injured. Despite their elaborate schemes, the criminals keep getting outsmarted by baby Bink, who remains blissfully unaware of the chaos he leaves in his wake. The slapstick humor intensifies as they endure injuries, embarrassing moments, and endless frustration trying to capture the infant. As baby Bink wanders from one dangerous situation to the next, his worried parents, along with the police, search for him. Meanwhile, Eddie, Norby, and Vico finally catch up with baby Bink at a department store, but by then, the authorities are also closing in on them. In one final showdown, the criminals are caught, and baby Bink is reunited with his parents. The film ends with baby Bink safely back home, having unknowingly lived out the adventurous day of his dreams, just like the storybook his nanny reads to him every night. Mr. Beast, whose real name is Jimmy Donaldson, is a YouTuber known for his jaw-dropping challenges, massive giveaways, and philanthropic acts that have garnered him millions of fans worldwide. His story is one of dedication, vision, and relentless experimentation, transforming him from a small-time YouTuber to one of the platform's biggest creators. Early beginnings: Jimmy Donaldson started his YouTube journey in 2012 when he was just 13 years old. In the early days, his videos covered gaming, random stunts, and commentary about YouTube's trending topics. Despite years of slow growth, Mr. Beast remained committed to his dream of becoming a successful content creator. He would spend countless hours studying YouTube algorithms, figuring out how to make his videos more appealing and viral. His breakthrough came in 2017 with a simple yet captivating concept: counting to 100,000 in one video. The challenge took him 40 hours to complete, but the video exploded in popularity. The unique and absurd nature of the content caught people's attention, and Mr. Beast realized that extreme and outlandish challenges were the key to going viral. Building the brand following the success of the counting video, Mr. Beast began creating more attention-grabbing content, like donating large sums of money to strangers, performing elaborate challenges, and surprising people with life-changing gifts. Some of his most famous stunts include last to leave challenges. In these challenges, participants compete for massive prizes by staying in a confined space or performing tasks for extended periods of time. Massive giveaways. Mr. Beast became known for giving away millions of dollars in cash, cars, and even houses to both friends and strangers. Philanthropic projects. He launched large-scale charity projects like Team Trees, planting millions of trees, and Team Seas, removing millions of pounds of trash from the ocean. Philanthropy and business ventures beyond his YouTube fame, MrBeast is deeply committed to philanthropy. In 2020, he launched Beast Philanthropy, a channel entirely dedicated to charity work. He uses the revenue from this channel to fund food banks, provide disaster relief, and more. He also started his own virtual fast food chain, MrBeast Burger, which was launched in over 300 locations simultaneously, allowing fans to order MrBeast branded burgers across the US. Legacy and influence. MrBeast's approach to content creation has transformed the YouTube landscape. His videos often feature breathtaking production values, massive budgets, and feel-good stories that captivate audiences. As one of the most influential digital creators, he has redefined what it means to create engaging, high-stakes content. Through his combination of entertainment and philanthropy, MrBeast has become more than just a YouTuber. He is a brand, a philanthropist, and an innovator who continues to push the boundaries of what's possible on the platform. In the heart of a lush, enchanted forest, there was a village unlike any other. This village was home to the Smurfs, tiny blue creatures who lived in mushroom-shaped houses. The Smurfs were happy, kind-hearted, and always ready for an adventure. They were led by the wise and gentle Papa Smurf, who wore a red hat and was known for his knowledge of magic and potions. One bright morning, the Smurfs woke up to find something strange happening in their village. The flowers weren't blooming, the streams were drying up, and the birds weren't singing. The usually vibrant village seemed dull and lifeless. Papa Smurf, sensing that something was wrong, gathered the Smurfs in the village square. "My little Smurfs," Papa Smurf began, "there is something amiss in our forest. The magic that keeps our village alive seems to be fading. We must find out what's causing this before it's too late." The Smurfs were concerned, but they knew that with Papa Smurf's guidance, they could find a solution. Handy Smurf, the village inventor, suggested they explore the forest to see if they could find the source of the problem. So, Papa Smurf, Brainy Smurf, Smurfette, and a few others set off on a journey through the forest. As they ventured deeper into the woods, they came across a hidden cave that none of them had ever seen before. Inside the cave, they found an ancient, glowing crystal that pulsed with a strange energy. The crystal was cracked, and its light was dimming. Papa Smurf immediately understood what was happening. "This crystal is the source of the forest's magic," Papa Smurf explained. "It must have been keeping our village and the forest alive all this time. But now, it's damaged, and its power is fading." Brainy Smurf, always eager to show off his knowledge, chimed in, "We need to repair the crystal." "But how do we do that, Papa Smurf?" Papa Smurf thought for a moment. "We need a special potion to mend the crystal's cracks and restore its power. But the ingredients are rare and can only be found in the deepest parts of the forest. We must hurry, my little Smurfs." The Smurfs split into groups to gather the ingredients: a silver feather from a moonlit owl, a drop of dew from the tallest mountain, and a petal from the elusive night-blooming Smurflower. Each group faced challenges along the way, but with teamwork and determination, they managed to collect everything they needed. When they returned to the cave, Papa Smurf carefully mixed the ingredients into a glowing blue potion. He poured the potion over the cracked crystal, and slowly, the crystal began to heal. Its light grew brighter and brighter until the entire cave was filled with a warm, magical glow. As the crystal's power was restored, the forest outside began to come back to life. Flowers bloomed, streams flowed again, and the birds returned, filling the air with their songs. The Smurfs cheered, knowing they had saved their village and the entire forest. Back in the village, the Smurfs celebrated with a grand feast. Papa Smurf reminded them of the importance of protecting their magical home and always working together. And from that day on, the Smurfs kept a close watch on the magic crystal, ensuring that their village remained the happy, vibrant place they loved. And so, life in the Smuff village returned to normal, filled with laughter, friendship, and, of course, a little bit of magic. In the vast Pride lands of Africa, a wise lion named Mufasa rules with a firm yet compassionate paw. His newborn son, Simba, is presented to the kingdom's animals, heralding the continuation of the circle of life. Simba's young heart brims with curiosity and a desire to understand what it means to be king. However, his innocent adventures often lead him into precarious situations. Mufasa's brother, Scar, harbors a deep-seated envy and plots to usurp the throne. He cunningly persuades Simba to venture into the dangerous elephant graveyard. Simba and his friend Nala find themselves cornered by Scar's hyena minions, but are saved by Mufasa. This ordeal serves as a pivotal lesson in bravery and responsibility for Simba. Scar's jealousy festers until he devises a lethal plan to rid himself of both Mufasa and Simba. He lures Simba into a gorge and triggers a wildebeest stampede. Mufasa, in his heroic attempt to save his son, is killed. In the aftermath, Scar deceives Simba into believing he is to blame for his father's death, urging him to flee. With Simba gone, Scar ascends to power, allowing the hyenas to decimate the once thriving kingdom. Far from home, a grieving Simba is discovered by Timon, a wisecracking meerkat, and Pumbaa, a big-hearted warthog. They introduce Simba to Hakuna Matata, a mantra of living without worries. Simba grows up in the carefree jungle, avoiding his painful past and the responsibilities that await. Years pass, and now adult Simba is confronted by Nala, his childhood friend, who begs him to return and save the Pride lands from ruin. Overwhelmed by guilt and fear, Simba hesitates. A spiritual encounter with Mufasa's image in the night sky, coupled with the guidance of Rafiki, a sagacious baboon, reignites Simba's sense of duty. Simba returns to a kingdom in shambles. With the support of Nala, Timon, Pumbaa, and the lionesses, he challenges Scar. A fierce battle ensues, revealing Scar's betrayal of the hyenas and the truth about Mufasa's death. Simba triumphs, leading to Scar's defeat and the hyenas turning against Scar. With Scar vanquished, Simba assumes his rightful place as king. Under his just and benevolent rule, the Pride lands flourish anew. The circle of life renews as Simba and Nala welcome their own cub, signaling hope and continuity for the future. The Lion King captures the essence of overcoming adversity, embracing responsibility, and finding one's true path in life. Once upon a time, in a small village nestled between rolling hills, there lived a stubborn donkey named Fred. Fred was famous for being the most stubborn creature in the village, and everyone knew that if Fred didn't want to do something, there was no convincing him otherwise. One day, the village decided to host a grand festival. There would be music, dancing, and most importantly, a pie-eating contest. The villagers were thrilled and began preparing for the big day. Fred's owner, Old Man Jenkins, was particularly excited because he believed Fred could help transport all the pies to the festival grounds. "Fred, today's the day you'll be a hero. You're going to carry these pies to the festival," Old Man Jenkins declared with a grin. Fred, however, had other ideas. The moment Old Man Jenkins strapped the basket of pies onto his back, Fred planted his hooves firmly into the ground and refused to budge. The villagers gathered around, offering carrots, apples, and even singing songs to encourage Fred to move. But Fred just stood there, chewing lazily on a piece of straw, completely unimpressed by their efforts. Seeing no other option, Old Man Jenkins decided to try a trick. He grabbed a long stick and tied a juicy carrot to the end of it, dangling it just in front of Fred's nose. Surely, Fred would move now, tempted by the delicious treat. Fred stared at the carrot for a moment, and then, to everyone's surprise, He took a slow, deliberate step forward. The villagers cheered, thinking the stubborn donkey had finally given in. But Fred had a plan of his own. He kept walking, not towards the festival grounds, but towards the river on the outskirts of the village. The villagers chased after him, calling out for him to stop, but Fred ignored them all. He reached the riverbank, stopped, and with one swift movement, he shook his back, sending the basket of pies tumbling into the water. The pies floated away downstream as Fred watched them with a satisfied flick of his tail. Old Man Jenkins sighed deeply, realizing Fred had outsmarted them all. Fred, on the other hand, turned around and trotted back to the village square, where he settled down for a well-deserved nap. From that day on, the villagers knew better than to rely on Fred for anything important. But they couldn't help but laugh whenever they remembered the day the stubborn donkey had decided that no pies would be eaten at the festival. And Fred? He just continued to be Fred, as stubborn and clever as ever. In a small, quiet town named Riverview, a legend was born, a legend that would forever change the world of automobiles. It all began with a young inventor named Leo Mercer, whose obsession with speed had started when he was just a child. Leo had always been fascinated by cars, spending hours tinkering with old engines and dreaming of one day building the fastest car the world had ever seen. Leo's workshop was a small, cluttered space filled with blueprints, tools, and car parts. For years, he worked tirelessly, pouring every ounce of his energy and creativity into his project. He envisioned a car that could defy the limits of speed and push the boundaries of engineering. His vision was not just about going fast. It was about achieving a perfect harmony between design, technology, and aerodynamics. After countless experiments and sleepless nights, Leo finally completed his masterpiece, a sleek, aerodynamic vehicle he called the Tempest. The Tempest was a marvel of modern engineering, with a streamlined design that minimized air resistance and a powerful engine that harnessed cutting-edge technology. Its exterior gleamed in a deep, metallic blue, and its tires were specially designed to grip the road with unparalleled precision. Word of Leo's creation quickly spread through Riverview. The town buzzed with excitement as rumors of the fastest car in the world circulated. People gathered around Leo's workshop, eager to catch a glimpse of the Tempest and witness its debut. Leo decided that the best way to showcase his creation was to set a new world speed record, and he chose a long, open stretch of highway outside town for the attempt. The day of the record attempt arrived, and the scene was electric. The highway was lined with spectators, reporters, and car enthusiasts, all eager to see the Tempest in action. Leo, dressed in his racing suit, stood beside his creation, his face a mixture of determination and nervous anticipation. As Leo prepared for the run, he reviewed the calculations and settings one last time. The Tempest was equipped with a state-of-the-art navigation system and a powerful engine that roared to life with a deep, throaty growl. The crowd fell silent as Leo slid into the driver's seat and fastened his harness. With a deep breath, Leo accelerated down the highway. The Tempest surged forward with incredible force, the landscape blurring past in a dizzying display of speed. The car felt like it was slicing through the air, its aerodynamic design working in perfect harmony with a powerful engine. Leo's heart raced as he pushed the Tempest to its limits, the speedometer climbing higher and higher. The crowd watched in awe as the Tempest hurtled down the highway, reaching speeds that defied belief. The roar of the engine and the wind rushing past created a symphony of sound that filled the air. Leo felt a profound sense of exhilaration and freedom as he navigated the open road, the car responding with flawless precision. After a few nerve-wracking minutes, Leo slowed the Tempest and brought it to a stop. The crowd erupted into cheers and applause, their excitement palpable. Leo's heart swelled with pride as he stepped out of the car, greeted by a sea of congratulations and admiring gazes. The official measurements confirmed what everyone had suspected. The tempest had shattered the world's speed record by an impressive margin. In a vibrant city nestled between rolling hills and winding rivers, two best friends, Roma and Diana, shared a dream of making their mark on the world. They had grown up together, their lives intertwined with countless shared adventures and dreams. Roma, with her boundless curiosity and love for art, was a painter. Diana, pragmatic yet imaginative, had a knack for organizing and running projects. The two friends had always talked about starting a business together, one that combined their talents and passions. After years of planning and saving, they decided to take the plunge. They opened a quaint little shop in the heart of the city called Elysian Creations, a space that blended Roma's stunning artwork with Diana's organizational skills. The shop would feature Roma's paintings and handcrafted art pieces, as well as offer art classes and workshops organized by Diana. From the moment they opened their doors, Elysian Creations was a hit. The shop was filled with vibrant colors and textures, reflecting Roma's artistic flair. Diana's meticulous organization ensured that every class ran smoothly, and her warm, welcoming demeanor made the shop a beloved community hub. One crisp autumn day, as the leaves turned shades of gold and red, the city held its annual Art and Craft Festival. Elysian Creations was invited to participate, and Roma and Diana saw it as a perfect opportunity to showcase their work on a larger stage. They spent weeks preparing for the festival, creating new pieces and planning engaging activities for visitors. As the festival approached, excitement and anticipation filled the air. The festival grounds were decorated with banners and lights, and booths from various artisans and vendors lined the streets. Roma and Diana's booth, adorned with colorful paintings and interactive art displays, stood out amidst the crowd. On the day of the festival, the sun shone brightly, and the atmosphere was buzzing with energy. Roma and Diana were thrilled to see so many people stopping by their booth. Families admired the paintings, children eagerly participated in art activities, and the community embraced the vibrant creativity that Elysian Creations brought to the festival. Midway through the day, a well-dressed woman approached their booth. She introduced herself as Evelyn Hart, renowned art critic known for her discerning eye and influential reviews. Evelyn was captivated by Roma's artwork and intrigued by the unique concept of their shop. She spent a considerable amount of time discussing the inspiration behind Roma's pieces and observing Diana's skillful coordination of the art activities. Roma and Diana were both nervous and excited as Evelyn promised to write a review about their work. When the festival ended, they were exhausted but exhilarated, feeling that they had made a significant impression. A few weeks later, Evelyn's review appeared in a prominent art magazine. It praised Roma's innovative approach to painting and highlighted Diana's exceptional ability to create a welcoming and engaging art space. The review was glowing and brought newfound attention to Elysian Creations. With a surge in interest, the shop became even more popular. They received invitations to showcase their work at other festivals and galleries, and their classes were fully booked. Despite the growing success, Roma and Diana remained grounded and focused on their original vision to bring art and creativity into the lives of others. As their business flourished, Roma and Diana continued to support each other, their bond growing stronger with each passing day. In the quaint town of Greenfield, there was a charming little cafe called the Garden Table, renowned for its delicious and nourishing meals. The cafe's owner, Clara, was a passionate chef who believed that food could heal and uplift both body and spirit. Her menu featured dishes made from locally sourced, organic ingredients, and her commitment to healthy eating was as much a philosophy as it was a culinary choice. One sunny morning, a young woman named Laura walked into the Garden Table. Laura was new to town and had recently been struggling with her health. She felt tired and sluggish despite her best efforts to eat healthily. Her doctor had recommended a more focused approach to nutrition, so she decided to give Clara's cafe a try. As Laura sat down at a cozy corner table, Clara approached with a warm smile. "Welcome to the garden table," she said. "I'm Clara. How can I help you today?" Laura explained her situation, mentioning her fatigue and her struggle to find the right balance in her diet. Clara listened attentively and then said, "I believe the right food can make a big difference. Let me prepare something special for you." Clara returned to the kitchen and started preparing a meal. She chose ingredients rich in vitamins and minerals: fresh kale, vibrant carrots, nutrient-packed quinoa, and juicy berries. Clara also added a hint of turmeric and ginger, known for their anti-inflammatory properties. The meal would not only be healthy, but also bursting with flavor. When Clara served the dish, it was a colorful and aromatic feast. A bed of quinoa was topped with a kale and carrot salad, garnished with a handful of berries and a drizzle of homemade lemon tahini dressing. The plate was a visual delight and smelled incredibly fresh. Laura took her first bite, and the flavors danced on her tongue. The crunch of the kale, the sweetness of the berries, and the zesty dressing created a harmonious blend. Each mouthful felt revitalizing, and she could almost feel the energy returning to her body. As Laura finished her meal, Clara came over to check in. Laura's eyes sparkled with newfound vitality. "This is incredible," Laura said. "I feel so much better. It's like a weight has been lifted off me." Clara beamed. "I'm glad to hear that. Food is a powerful thing. When we eat things that are not only nourishing but also made with care and love, it can truly affect our well-being." Laura continued to visit the garden table regularly, and each time she felt more invigorated. She learned a lot from Clara, not just about healthy eating, but about how to enjoy the process of cooking and the joy of fresh ingredients. Clara also taught Laura simple recipes she could make at home, turning her meals into moments of self-care. As weeks turned into months, Laura noticed a significant change in her health. She had more energy, her mood improved, and she felt more connected to the food she ate. One summer, a group of friends, Amy, Ben, Carla, and Derek, decided to embark on a road trip across the country. They were excited for adventure, but they didn't anticipate the nightmare that would unfold. Their journey took them through remote areas and picturesque landscapes, but things took a sinister turn when they decided to explore an old, forgotten town rumored to be haunted. The town, known as Ravens Hollow, was barely on the map. It had been abandoned for decades, left to decay after a series of mysterious disappearances and unexplained events drove the residents away. The friends were intrigued by the town's dark history and decided to spend the night there, thinking it would be a thrilling and harmless adventure. As the sun began to set, they arrived at Ravens Hollow. The town was eerily silent, with derelict houses and overgrown streets casting long shadows in the fading light. The air was thick with an unsettling stillness, and the temperature seemed to drop as they ventured deeper into the town. They decided to explore the old town hall, a grand but decrepit building at the center of Ravens Hollow. Inside, the dust was thick, and the wooden floors creaked under their weight. The friends split up to explore different parts of the building. Amy and Ben went to the basement, while Carla and Derek ventured upstairs. In the basement, Amy and Ben discovered old, cobweb-covered documents and strange symbols etched into the walls. The atmosphere grew colder, and they felt an uneasy presence watching them. Suddenly, they heard footsteps above them, even though Carla and Derek had been out of earshot for some time. Meanwhile, Carla and Derek were in the upper floors, where they found an old library filled with tattered books and faded photographs. One photo, in particular, caught their attention, a picture of the town's original residents, with one face conspicuously scratched out. As they examined it, the lights flickered and then went out completely, plunging them into darkness. The group tried to regroup in the main hall, but when they met up, they realized something was terribly wrong. The once familiar layout of the town hall seemed to have changed. The rooms were distorted, and the doors led to unfamiliar places. The building itself felt alive, shifting and warping around them. Panic set in as they realized they were lost. The shadows seemed to move on their own, and whispers echoed through the hallways. The friends' flashlights revealed ghostly apparitions and fleeting glimpses of figures watching them from the corners of their vision. The whispers grew louder, turning into anguished cries and sinister laughter. As they stumbled through the labyrinthine hallways, they came across a room with a large mirror. In its reflection, they saw not their own faces but twisted, nightmarish versions of themselves, each one screaming silently in horror. The mirror seemed to pulsate with a dark energy, and as they backed away in terror, it shattered into 1,000 pieces. Desperate to escape, they made their way to the building's front entrance. But as they neared the exit, the door slammed shut with a deafening bang. The walls began to close in, and the shadows swirled into a massive, inky vortex in the center of the room. The friends huddled together, their breaths coming in ragged gasps. In a last-ditch effort, Ben grabbed a piece of the broken mirror and used it to shatter the front door's window. They climbed through the shattered glass and stumbled out into the night, their hearts pounding with adrenaline. They fled Raven's Hollow, their car's tires screeching as they sped away. Behind them, the town seemed to vanish into the darkness, as if it was never there at all. Once, in a small village nestled at the edge of a dense, ancient forest, there was a place everyone avoided: the Dark Forest. Legends spoke of its cursed trees and ghostly shadows, but the most chilling tale was that of the Whispering Shadows. It all started when a young woman named Eliza, tired of the mundane life in her village, decided to venture into the Dark Forest despite the warnings. She was determined to uncover its mysteries and prove that the legends were nothing more than superstitions. With only a lantern and a map drawn from old tales, she stepped into the shadowy expanse of trees. As she wandered deeper into the forest, the light from her lantern seemed to wane, and the trees grew thicker, their branches intertwining like gnarled fingers trying to grasp at her. The air was heavy and cold, and the usual forest sounds seemed to have been swallowed by an eerie silence. Hours passed, and Eliza found herself at the heart of the forest. The trees here were enormous, their trunks twisted and dark, their leaves whispering in a language she couldn't understand. Suddenly, the whispers grew louder, forming coherent words that floated around her, echoing through the darkness. "Leave before it's too late." Eliza's heart raced, but she pressed on, convinced it was just the wind. Then she noticed something peculiar: faint, glowing eyes staring at her from the shadows between the trees. She tried to rationalize it as tricks of the light or reflections, but the eyes seemed to follow her every move, growing brighter and more menacing. The forest seemed to come alive around her, the trees shifting and creaking as if they were closing in. Eliza's lantern flickered wildly, casting erratic shadows that danced on the ground. The whispers grew louder, more insistent, and now they were accompanied by a soft, rhythmic drumming sound. It felt like something was following her, always just out of sight. Desperate to find her way out, Eliza ran through the darkened maze of trees. The whispers turned into guttural voices, each one pleading, warning, or laughing. Her map was useless in the darkness, and she could no longer tell which way was north or south. She stumbled through the underbrush, her breath coming in ragged gasps. Finally, she emerged into a small clearing bathed in moonlight. At the center was an ancient stone altar, covered in strange symbols. Her lantern's light revealed more eyes peering at her from the surrounding trees. The whispers had turned into a cacophony of voices, all chanting in an unknown language. Suddenly, the ground trembled, and a shadowy figure emerged from the altar. It was a dark, formless entity, its presence exuding an overwhelming sense of dread. The eyes in the forest blinked out one by one, and the whispers grew silent, as if the forest itself held its breath. Eliza stood frozen, her fear paralyzing her. The shadowy figure moved towards her, its form shifting and writhing. As it drew nearer, Eliza could see that its face was a distorted reflection of her own, filled with torment and despair. In the bustling city of Metropolis, where towering skyscrapers kissed the sky and the streets were filled with the hum of everyday life, there was a hero unlike any other. His name was Superman, and though he appeared to be just a man, he was far more. Born on the distant planet Krypton, he was sent to Earth as a baby by his parents, who knew their home world was doomed. Landing in the quiet fields of Smallville, he was found by a humble farming couple, Jonathan and Martha Kent, who raised him as their own and named him Clark. As Clark grew up, it became clear that he was no ordinary boy. He was stronger, faster, and could leap tall buildings in a single bound. But his powers weren't just physical. He had an unshakable moral compass, instilled by his adoptive parents, who taught him that his abilities were meant to help others. When Clark moved to Metropolis as an adult, he took on a new identity, Superman. By day, he worked as a mild-mannered reporter at the Daily Planet, where he could blend into the background and stay close to the action. But when danger struck, he transformed into the Man of Steel, donning his iconic blue suit with a red cape and the bold S shield on his chest, a symbol of hope. Superman's powers were unmatched. He could fly faster than a speeding bullet, his heat vision could melt through steel, and his superhuman strength could lift entire buildings. But it was his heart that truly set him apart. He dedicated his life to protecting the people of Earth, standing as a beacon of hope in a world often darkened by fear and despair. Time and again, Superman faced incredible challenges. He battled supervillains like Lex Luthor, the genius billionaire who sought to control Metropolis through corruption and greed, and Brainiac, an alien artificial intelligence bent on consuming the knowledge of entire planets. He fought off massive invasions, saved people from natural disasters, and even journeyed to other dimensions and galaxies to stop threats beyond imagination. Despite his immense power, Superman always remained humble. He never considered himself a god, even though some saw him as one. He lived by a simple code: truth, justice, and the American way. For him, being a hero wasn't about fame or glory, it was about doing what was right, even when it was hard. He believed in the goodness of humanity and fought not just for the survival of people, but for their potential to be better. One day, a new threat emerged: Doomsday, a creature from the depths of space, bred for destruction and seemingly unstoppable. Doomsday tore through everything in his path, leveling cities and leaving chaos in his wake. Even the combined might of the world's greatest heroes couldn't stop him. Superman knew this was a fight he couldn't walk away from. In the heart of Metropolis, the two titans clashed in an epic battle. The ground shook beneath them, buildings crumbled, and the sky darkened with the force of their blows. Superman fought with everything he had, not just for the city, but for the world he had come to love as his own. As the fight dragged on, it became clear that stopping Doomsday would come at a great cost.
Once upon a time, in a small village nestled between rolling hills, there was a boy named Luca who lived and breathed football. From the moment he could walk, he chased after a ball, kicking it through the fields and narrow streets of his village. His passion for the game was unmatched, and it didn't take long for people to notice his incredible talent. Luca was not just skilled. He had something extra, an instinct of vision on the field that set him apart from his peers. His feet moved as if the ball was an extension of his body, weaving through defenders with effortless grace. But it wasn't just his technical skill that made Lucas special. It was his heart. He played every game as if it were his last, pouring all his energy, love, and spirit into every touch. As a teenager, Luka joined a local football academy where his abilities continued to blossom. Coaches marveled at his work ethic, his focus, and his humility. Despite being the best player on the pitch, he never sought the spotlight. His only goal was to make his team better and to bring joy to the people who watched him play. News of Luka's talent began to spread, and soon, scouts from some of the biggest clubs in the world came to see him in action. He was offered contracts from top teams, but Luka wasn't interested in fame or fortune. He wanted to play for a team where he could grow and help others do the same. One day, during a crucial match in the National Youth Championship, Luka's team found themselves down by 2 goals with only 15 minutes left on the clock. The opposing team was stronger, faster, and more experienced, and it seemed like defeat was inevitable. But Luka, calm and composed, rallied his teammates with a quiet confidence. He knew this wasn't just about winning. It was about believing in themselves and playing with heart. In those final moments, Luka was everywhere on the field. He scored a brilliant goal from outside the box, curling the ball into the top corner with precision. Then, with just minutes remaining, he set up the equalizer with a perfect pass, threading the ball through defenders as if he could see the future. In the dying seconds of the match, with the score tied, Luka received the ball at midfield. As the clock ticked down, he dribbled past 3 defenders, cutting inside with lightning speed. He took a shot from the edge of the penalty area. Time seemed to stand still. The ball sailed through the air and hit the back of the net, sending the crowd into a frenzy. Luka's team had won, not because of individual brilliance, but because of the belief and spirit he instilled in his teammates. That day, he wasn't just the best football player on the field. He became a legend, someone who played for the love of the game and the joy of sharing it with others. Years later, Luka would go on to play for some of the biggest clubs in the world, winning countless trophies and earning global recognition as the greatest football player of his generation. But to the people of his village and to those who knew his story, Luka was more than just the best. He was a symbol of passion, humility, and the power of believing in something greater than oneself.
Matilda Wormwood is a young girl with extraordinary intelligence and a knack for reading. However, her brilliance is overshadowed by her neglectful and unpleasant parents, Mr. and Mrs. Wormwood, who are more interested in television and their own selfish pursuits than in nurturing their daughter's gifts. Matilda is also mistreated by her older brother, Michael, and has a rough time at home, which makes her school life a welcome escape. At school, Matilda's teacher is the kind and gentle Miss Honey, who quickly recognizes Matilda's exceptional intelligence and love for learning. In contrast, the headmistress, Miss Agatha Trunchbull, is a terrifying and tyrannical figure who rules the school with an iron fist. Miss Trunchbull delights in punishing children and is especially cruel to those who don't meet her high standards or who stand up to her. Despite the harsh environment at school, Matilda thrives academically. She discovers that she has telekinetic powers. She can move objects with her mind. Matilda uses her abilities to exact some well-deserved revenge on those who have wronged her, including her terrible parents and the malevolent Miss Trunchbull. As Matilda and Miss Honey grow closer, Miss Honey reveals her own troubled past with Miss Trunchbull, who is also her aunt and the source of much of Miss Honey's misery. With Matilda's help, Miss Honey is finally able to reclaim her home and her happiness. Matilda's powers prove crucial in driving Miss Trunchbull away from the school, ensuring a much kinder environment for the students. In a surprising twist, Matilda's parents, who are involved in illegal activities, realize that their daughter's intelligence and the trouble she has caused them make their lives untenable. They flee the country to escape the police, leaving Matilda behind. With her parents gone, Miss Honey becomes Matilda's guardian. Matilda finally finds the loving and supportive home she always wanted. Together, they live happily, and Matilda continues to excel and inspire those around her. Matilda is a story of resilience, the triumph of intelligence and kindness over cruelty, and the power of a nurturing environment to help a child flourish. Alice was sitting by a peaceful riverbank when she noticed a peculiar sight: a white rabbit in a waistcoat holding a pocket watch and muttering about being late. He dashed into a nearby rabbit hole, and without thinking, Alice followed. Down the hole she tumbled, falling into a strange and whimsical world. In this curious place, Alice found herself in a hall filled with numerous doors. She discovered a tiny door that required a key she found on a glass table, but she was too large to fit through. Spying a bottle labeled "Drink Me," Alice took a sip and shrank to a suitable size to pass through the door. However, she also stumbled upon a pool of tears she had shed earlier, when she was larger. Various animals swam in the pool, and together they managed to exit and dry off through a nonsensical caucus race organized by a dodo. Each creature shared absurd stories, leaving Alice increasingly baffled. Alice encountered the white rabbit again, who mistook her for his maid and sent her to retrieve his gloves and fan. Inside his house, Alice grew and shrank multiple times, causing a commotion. Eventually, the rabbit and his companions tried to expel her from the house. Wandering further, she met a caterpillar smoking a hookah, who gave her cryptic advice and taught her how to use pieces of mushroom to control her size. Alice then found herself at the Duchess's house, meeting a mad cook and a perpetually grinning Cheshire cat. The Duchess's baby turned into a pig, bewildering Alice even more. Invited to a mad tea party by the March Hare, Alice encountered the Mad Hatter and a dormouse in a never-ending, chaotic party. Frustrated, she left to find herself at the Queen of Hearts croquet ground. Here, the Queen played croquet with live flamingos and hedgehogs, shouting, "Off with their heads!" at every turn. Next, the Mock Turtle and Griffin entertained Alice with bizarre tales and a dance called the Lobster Quadrille. Alice listened but could scarcely make sense of it all. Things took an even stranger turn when the Queen held a trial for the Knave of Hearts, accused of stealing tarts. The trial was a farce, filled with absurd evidence and laughable witnesses. At the height of the trial, Alice, now at her full size, declared the proceedings ridiculous. Threatened by the Queen and her cards, she woke up to find herself back on the riverbank. It had all been a dream, a whimsical and delightful adventure she would never forget. 5-year-old Diana woke up to the sun's warm rays peeking through her curtains. Today was a special day, her very first day at kindergarten. She had picked out her favorite pink dress and matched it with her sparkly shoes, feeling like a princess ready for a grand adventure. Her mom packed her a lunch in a shiny, new lunchbox adorned with pictures of her favorite cartoon characters. Diana's dad gave her a hug and reminded her to be brave and have fun. Diana felt a flutter of excitement and a twinge of nervousness as she walked with her parents to school. At the entrance of the kindergarten, Diana's eyes widened at the sight of colorful murals and a playground bustling with children. Her teacher, Mrs. Green, welcomed her with a gentle smile. Diana was introduced to her new classmates, and she immediately felt a little more at ease. During circle time, Mrs. Green asked each child to share their name and something they liked. Diana shyly spoke up, "I'm Diana, and I like to draw." To her delight, Mrs. Green handed out crayons and paper for everyone to draw their favorite things. Diana drew a picture of her family and her pet cat, Muffin. After a fun snack break and a story about a brave little mouse, it was time for the playground. Diana and her new friends laughed and played together, sliding down the slides and swinging high into the sky. Diana made a new friend named Mia, who had a bright red bow in her hair and a cheerful laugh. When the school day ended, Diana was full of stories to tell her parents. She shared how she'd drawn her family and made a new friend. Diana's mom and dad listened with smiles, and they praised her for being so brave. That night, as Diana snuggled into bed, she felt a sense of accomplishment. Her first day of kindergarten had been full of fun, new friends, and adventures. She drifted off to sleep dreaming of all the exciting days to come. In a quaint village nestled between rolling hills and dense forests, there lived a young woman named Dora. Dora was known throughout the village for her kindness and boundless curiosity. Her days were filled with tending to her family's small farm, but her heart yearned for adventures beyond the village limits. One bright spring morning, Dora found an old, weathered map tucked away in a dusty corner of her grandmother's attic. The map was adorned with mysterious symbols and marked a route leading to a place labeled the Forgotten Glade. Intrigued by the promise of adventure, Dora decided to follow the map and uncover its secrets. With a small satchel of provisions and a heart full of excitement, Dora set out on her journey. The map led her through familiar landscapes, meadows of wildflowers, bubbling brooks, and ancient oak trees. But as she ventured deeper into the forest, the surroundings grew more enchanting and unfamiliar. The trees seemed to whisper secrets, and the air was filled with the fragrance of blooming, exotic flowers. After several hours of hiking, Dora reached a clearing she had never seen before. The Forgotten Glade was a magical place, unlike anything she had imagined. The glade was surrounded by towering trees with leaves that shimmered like emeralds, and a crystal-clear stream wound its way through the center. At the heart of the glade stood an ancient, majestic tree with a trunk as wide as a small house. Dora approached the tree and noticed an inscription carved into its bark. The inscription read, "To those who seek, the heart of the glade reveals its secrets." As she pondered the meaning of the inscription, Dora noticed a small door at the base of the tree, partially hidden by vines. With a mixture of curiosity and trepidation, Dora opened the door and discovered a spiral staircase descending into the tree's hollow trunk. Taking a deep breath, she descended the staircase, which led her to a beautifully decorated chamber filled with artifacts from different times and places. In the center of the chamber was a pedestal with a glowing, ancient artifact, a pendant in the shape of a leaf. As Dora approached the pedestal, the pendant began to emit a warm, inviting light. She carefully picked it up, and as she did, the chamber filled with a soothing melody. The pendant seemed to resonate with the glade's magic, and Dora felt a profound sense of connection with the place. Suddenly, a gentle voice spoke from within the chamber. "Thank you for finding me. I am the guardian of the glade. Your pure heart and bravery have awakened the magic within. This pendant carries the essence of the glade. Use it wisely to bring harmony to your world." Dora, though astonished, felt a deep sense of purpose. She thanked the guardian and returned to the village, where she discovered that the pendant had the power to heal and nurture. The village flourished as Dora used the pendant to help crops grow, mend broken homes, and bring peace to those in need. As the years passed, Dora's name became synonymous with kindness and wisdom. The Forgotten Glade remained a place of wonder, visited only by those with a heart as pure as Dora's. And Dora, forever grateful for her extraordinary adventure, continued to share the magic of the glade with everyone she met. Once upon a time, in a sprawling city filled with gleaming skyscrapers and bustling streets, there lived a young man named Alexander Sinclair. Born into one of the wealthiest families in the country, Alexander had every luxury at his fingertips. His days were spent in private schools, opulent mansions, and exclusive clubs. His life seemed perfect from the outside, but He often felt like a prisoner to his own privileges. Alexander's father, Jonathan Sinclair, was a titan in the world of finance. His mother, Evelyn, was a renowned philanthropist. Despite their achievements, they were often away on business or charity missions, leaving Alexander to navigate his world largely on his own. One crisp autumn day, Alexander decided to visit the city's bustling Central Park, a place he had not explored in years. He was accustomed to traveling in his sleek, private car, but this time he opted for a simpler approach, taking a walk. The park was alive with families enjoying picnics, children playing, and street performers adding a touch of magic to the scene. As Alexander wandered, he came across a small, dilapidated playground. It was a stark contrast to the pristine facilities he was used to. He saw a group of children playing there, their laughter echoing through the air. Despite the state of disrepair, their joy was palpable. Alexander was struck by how different their lives must be compared to his. He noticed a boy around his age, maybe a little younger, named Leo, who was teaching a group of younger children how to build a makeshift fort from old wooden planks and tires. Leo had a kind smile and an infectious energy that drew Alexander in. Curious, Alexander approached the group and introduced himself. Leo greeted him warmly and invited him to join their game. At first, Alexander felt out of place, unsure of how to interact with people so different from him. But Leo's easygoing nature made him feel welcome. As they worked together to build the fort, Alexander learned about Leo's life. Leo's family struggled to make ends meet, and he often had to help his parents with various odd jobs. Despite these challenges, Leo was optimistic and found joy in simple things, like spending time with his friends and creating something out of nothing. Over the next few weeks, Alexander started visiting the park regularly. He joined Leo and the other kids in their games and helped them with various projects. He learned to appreciate the value of creativity and community over material wealth. Through these interactions, Alexander discovered a different kind of richness, a richness of spirit and connection that he had been missing. One day, Leo mentioned that the playground was in desperate need of repairs. The thought lingered with Alexander, who had grown increasingly fond of the place and its vibrant inhabitants. Inspired by his experiences and newfound friends, Alexander approached his parents with a plan to renovate the playground. With their support, he organized fundraisers and rallied his social circle to contribute. The transformation was remarkable. The playground was restored to its former glory, and the joy it brought to the children was beyond measure. Leo and his friends were overjoyed, and Alexander felt a deep sense of fulfillment that money alone could never provide. Once upon a time, in a quaint town nestled between rolling hills and a sparkling river, there lived a young woman named Barbie. Known for her creativity, kindness, and adventurous spirit, Barbie was a beloved figure in her community. Her days were spent designing beautiful clothes, helping her friends, and exploring the countryside. One sunny morning, while Barbie was out for a walk, she stumbled upon an old, dusty map tucked inside a hollow tree. The map depicted a hidden path leading into an enchanted forest that was rumored to be magical. Intrigued by the idea of adventure, Barbie decided to follow the map and discover what lay within the forest. Equipped with a backpack full of essentials, Barbie set out on her journey. As she entered the forest, she was greeted by an array of vibrant flowers, glowing fungi, and a soft, otherworldly light that illuminated the path. The forest seemed alive, with whispers of ancient magic in the air. As Barbie ventured deeper, she encountered an array of fantastical creatures. There were talking animals, shimmering fairies, and wise old trees that shared stories of the forest's enchantment. Each creature she met had a unique tale to tell, adding to the wonder of her journey. The deeper Barbie went, the more she sensed that the forest held a special purpose for her. She followed the map to a majestic clearing where a grand tree stood at its center. The tree was enormous, with branches that sparkled like stardust and leaves that whispered secrets of the ages. At the base of the grand tree, Barbie discovered a hidden door covered in intricate carvings. The door was adorned with a magical lock that glowed softly. Next to the door was a plaque with a riddle inscribed on it. To unlock the heart of the forest true, one must show a spirit brave and new. In courage and kindness, the key you'll find to reveal the magic of this realm divine. Barbie pondered the riddle, her mind racing through the many adventures she had experienced. She realized that the answer lay in her own heart. Her bravery and kindness had always guided her through challenges. With this understanding, she placed her hand on the magical lock and spoke from her heart. The door slowly creaked open, revealing a breathtaking sight, a hidden garden filled with glowing flowers, shimmering streams, and a crystal-clear fountain at its center. At the fountain's edge was a small, golden chest. With excitement, Barbie opened the chest and found a beautiful, sparkling crystal inside. As soon as Barbie touched the crystal, a soft, melodious voice filled the garden. "You have unlocked the heart of the forest," the voice said. "This crystal holds the essence of the forest's magic. Use it wisely to spread kindness and joy in the world beyond." Barbie thanked the enchanted forest for its gifts and made her way back to her town, carrying the crystal with her. Once home, she used the crystal's magic to enhance her designs, creating beautiful clothes that brought joy to everyone who wore them. She also used its power to help those in need, spreading happiness and kindness throughout her community. The enchanted forest remained a special place in Barbie's heart. She often visited it, cherishing the memories of her adventure and the friends she had made. The magic of the forest became a symbol of the power of courage, kindness, and the belief that even the smallest acts of goodness could bring about the most extraordinary changes. And so, Barbie's story became a legend in her town, a tale of adventure, magic, and the enduring power of a kind heart. In the heart of the savannah, where the grasslands stretch endlessly beneath the African sun, there was a young lion named Kofi. Kofi was the son of King Jafari, the majestic ruler of the Pride Lands. While Kofi admired his father's strength and wisdom, he often felt overshadowed and unsure of his own place in the grand scheme of the savannah. King Jafari was known throughout the land as a wise and powerful leader. His roar could be heard across the plains, and his presence commanded respect from all creatures. Kofi, on the other hand, was still learning the ways of the savannah. His mane was not yet full, and his roar, though growing stronger, was far from the thunderous sound of his father's. Despite his insecurities, Kofi was determined to prove himself worthy of his royal lineage. He trained hard, practicing his roar and honing his hunting skills. Yet the other young lions of the pride often teased him, and even though his mother, Queen Amara, and his father reassured him, Kofi couldn't shake his self-doubt. One dry season, a severe drought struck the savannah. The once lush grasses turned brown, and the rivers began to dry up. The animals of the Pride Lands were suffering, and the situation became dire. King Jafari, known for his leadership and bravery, rallied the Pride to find new sources of water and food. But even with his efforts, the drought persisted, and hope began to wane. One evening, as the sun set over the parched land, King Jafari fell ill from exhaustion and dehydration. The Pride was worried, and the atmosphere in the Pride Lands grew somber. Kofi, seeing his father's weakened state, felt a surge of responsibility. He realized that the time had come for him to step up and make a difference. Determined to help, Kofi set out on his own to find a solution. Guided by the lessons his father had taught him and driven by his love for his family and pride, he ventured into the vast savannah. He remembered the ancient stories of a hidden oasis, said to be blessed by the gods and capable of sustaining life even in the harshest conditions. Kofi's journey was arduous. He braved scorching heat and treacherous terrain, and he faced various challenges along the way. The journey tested his resolve and strength, but with each step, Kofi grew more confident. His perseverance and courage guided him through the wilderness. After days of searching, Kofi discovered the hidden oasis. It was a lush, verdant haven with a crystal-clear spring bubbling from the ground. The sight filled him with awe and relief. Kofi quickly filled his canteens and began to make his way back to the Pride lands, driven by the hope of saving his father and the Pride. Upon returning, Kofi was greeted with astonished and relieved faces. He led the Pride to the oasis, and they were able to quench their thirst and find nourishment. The oasis provided not only water, but also a refuge from the harsh conditions of the drought. King Jafari's health improved as he drank the refreshing water and regained his strength. With the immediate crisis averted, the Pride celebrated Kofi's bravery and determination. King Jafari, now fully recovered, praised his son for his courage and resourcefulness. You have shown us all that true strength lies not only in physical power but in the heart and spirit of a leader, he said, his voice filled with pride. Kofi's journey through the drought and his discovery of the oasis marked a turning point in his life. He realized that he had the heart of a leader, and he no longer felt overshadowed by his father's legacy. The kitchen is bustling with activity. Mia, a bright-eyed 10-year-old, sits at the breakfast table, nervously tapping her fingers on her new school supplies. Her mother is busy packing a lunch, and her father is reading the newspaper. I can't believe today is my first day at the new school. What if I don't make any friends? Mia says nervously. Sweetheart, you're going to do great. Just be yourself and remember, everyone is just as nervous on the first day, her mother comforts. And if you need any help, just remember we're here for you. It's a new adventure, adds her father with a smile. Mia stands at the entrance of her new school, clutching her backpack. The hallway is filled with other students, some chatting with friends and others looking just as nervous as Mia. She takes a deep breath and steps inside. Mia enters the classroom and looks around. She spots a few empty seats. Her teacher, Ms. Carter, a kind-looking woman in her late 30s, approaches her. Hello, you must be Mia. I'm Ms. Carter. Let me show you to your seat. Ms. Carter says warmly. Hi. Thanks. Mia replies nervously. Ms. Carter leads Mia to an empty seat next to a friendly-looking girl, Lucy. Lucy, this is Mia. She's new to our class. Could you show her around a bit? Of course. Hi, Mia. I'm Lucy. Don't worry, it's going to be fun. Let me show you where everything is. Lucy responds with a smile. Mia and Lucy sit together at a picnic table. Lucy introduces Mia to other kids in the class. Mia begins to relax as she shares her favorite books and hobbies. Mia loves reading adventure stories. We were just talking about our favorite books. Lucy says enthusiastically. Oh, I love adventure stories too. What's your favorite book, Mia? A classmate asks with interest. Treasure Island. I love the pirates and the treasure maps. Mia says, brightening up. No way. Me too. We should have a book club, another classmate adds excitedly. The conversation continues, and Mia starts to feel more at ease. She laughs and joins in the game of tag that follows lunch. The class is engaged in a fun activity, and Mia is now happily participating. Ms. Carter calls for everyone's attention. Today was a great first day. I'm proud of how everyone came together. Mia, you've done a wonderful job joining in and sharing your interests, she says enthusiastically. Thank you. It was a lot of fun. Mia responds, smiling. Mia walks out of school with Lucy, carrying her backpack and waving goodbye to her new friends. See you tomorrow, Mia. We'll plan our book club then. Lucy says cheerfully. Absolutely. I can't wait. Mia says excitedly. Mia's mother is waiting outside to pick her up. Once upon a time, in a lush, verdant forest, there lived two lovebirds named Lila and Finn. Their plumage was a brilliant mix of turquoise and gold, and they were known throughout the forest for their beautiful songs that echoed through the trees. Lila and Finn had been together since they were hatchlings, and their love was the talk of the entire woodland. Their days were filled with joy as they fluttered through the forest, singing melodies that made even the grumpiest old owl smile. They would build nests together, weave intricate patterns with twigs and leaves, and share sweet berries they found in the underbrush. Their love was so pure and genuine that it seemed to make the very flowers bloom brighter and the sun shine warmer. One fateful day, a fierce storm rolled into the forest. The skies darkened, and the winds howled like a pack of wild wolves. The trees swayed violently, and the rain fell in torrents. Lila and Finn huddled together in their nest, doing their best to keep warm and dry. But the storm was relentless, and soon, their once sturdy nest was battered by the fierce winds. The storm lasted all night, and by morning, the forest was left in disarray. Many of the animals were struggling to recover from the storm's fury. Lila and Finn emerged from their nest, soaked and weary but unharmed. They set out to check on their friends and help those in need. They found the squirrel's home destroyed, the deer struggling to find food, and the hedgehogs shivering in the cold. Without hesitation, Lila and Finn used their song to lift the spirits of their fellow forest dwellers. Their melodies were gentle and soothing, offering comfort and hope in the midst of chaos. They helped rebuild homes, gathered food, and provided warmth and companionship to those affected by the storm. As the days passed, the forest began to recover. The animals were grateful for the love and kindness that Lila and Finn had shown. One day, the wise old tortoise, who was known for his deep wisdom, called a gathering in the heart of the forest. "I have witnessed the extraordinary love and dedication of Lila and Finn," the tortoise said. "Their bond and their actions have reminded us all of what it means to truly care for one another. In honor of their selflessness, we will celebrate their love with a grand feast and a special tribute." The forest animals worked together to prepare a grand feast of fruits, nuts, and sweet nectar. They decorated the clearing with flowers and lanterns, and the celebration was filled with laughter, music, and joy. Lila and Finn were honored with a beautiful, hand-woven garland and were crowned as the heart of the forest for their unwavering love and compassion. From that day on, Lila and Finn continued to live their lives in the forest, their love even stronger and more profound. Their songs became a symbol of hope and unity, reminding everyone of the power of love and the importance of coming together in times of need. The forest thrived, and the lovebirds lived happily ever after, their hearts forever intertwined in a melody of enduring devotion. In a bustling city known for its innovation and ambition, there lived a young woman named Ava Mitchell. Ava was a scientist with a boundless curiosity about the universe. She worked at a cutting-edge laboratory where she delved into the mysteries of quantum physics and space-time. Her colleagues admired her intellect and passion, but Ava felt something was missing. Her work had not yet led to a breakthrough that could truly change the world. One fateful day, while experimenting with a new particle accelerator, Ava stumbled upon an unexpected anomaly. The experiment caused a rift in space-time, revealing a shimmering, otherworldly energy source. Driven by her unquenchable thirst for discovery, Ava carefully collected a sample of the energy. To her astonishment, the energy reacted to her presence, infusing her with extraordinary abilities. She could manipulate energy fields, bend light, and even alter the fabric of space itself. Her newfound powers allowed her to perform feats that defied the laws of physics. With these abilities, Ava became known as the Marvel. As the Marvel, Ava faced both the exhilaration of her new powers and the challenge of understanding their full potential. She trained herself rigorously, mastering her abilities and learning to control her powers with precision. Her first act as the Marvel was to thwart a robbery at a high-tech facility, using her powers to protect innocent lives and prevent a dangerous technology from falling into the wrong hands. But her heroic actions soon drew the attention of a formidable adversary. A shadowy figure known as Nexus, a being from a parallel dimension who sought to harness the energy Ava had discovered for his own nefarious purposes. Nexus was a master manipulator with powers that allowed him to bend reality to his will. His goal was to merge the dimensions and reshape the universe according to his own dark vision. Nexus began orchestrating chaos in the city, creating disturbances in reality and unleashing monstrous creatures from the rift. The Marvel found herself at the center of a battle not just for her city, but for the entire fabric of reality itself. She needed to confront Nexus and stop his plan before the parallel dimensions collided and caused irreversible damage. Ava, now fully embracing her role as the Marvel, rallied her allies, scientists, former colleagues, and even reformed villains who sought redemption. Together, they worked to understand Nexus's motives and devise a plan to thwart his schemes. The Marvel's ingenuity and bravery led her team to discover a way to close the rift and prevent the dimensional merge. The climactic battle between the Marvel and Nexus took place at the epicenter of the rift. The city watched in awe as the Marvel harnessed her powers to their fullest extent, using her control over energy and space to counter Nexus's reality warping attacks. The struggle was intense, with the very fabric of reality bending and shifting around them. In a moment of strategic brilliance, Ava managed to channel the energy from the rift directly into Nexus, neutralizing his power and breaking his control over the chaotic forces. Nexus was defeated, and the rift was sealed, restoring balance to the universe. The city and the world celebrated the Marvel as a hero. Her actions not only saved countless lives, but also brought about a new era of understanding and collaboration. Ava continued her work as a scientist, now using her powers to advance knowledge and explore the mysteries of the universe, while also serving as a guardian of reality. The Marvel became a symbol of hope and inspiration, a reminder of the incredible potential that lies within individuals who dare to push the boundaries of their understanding. Her story was one of discovery, courage, and the transformative power of using one's gifts for the greater good. Once upon a time, in a quaint little village nestled between rolling hills, there was a humble potter named Eliza. She was known far and wide for her beautiful but ordinary pots, which were cherished by the villagers for their simple charm. But one day, while working in her workshop, she discovered a peculiar, ancient-looking pot buried under a pile of clay. This pot was unlike anything she had ever seen. It was decorated with intricate symbols and seemed to shimmer faintly even in the dim light of her workshop. Eliza was intrigued and decided to keep it for herself. Little did she know this was no ordinary pot, it was a magic pot. One evening, after a particularly long day of work, Eliza was feeling hungry and decided to test the mysterious pot. She placed it on her stove and said, "Pot, please fill me with something delicious." To her astonishment, the pot began to rumble and hum. Soon, it was filled with a steaming, savory stew that smelled better than anything she had ever cooked. Eliza was amazed. She tasted the stew and found it to be the most delicious meal she had ever had. Word of the magic pot spread quickly through the village. People came from far and wide, hoping to see the magical wonders for themselves. They would bring ingredients, and the pot would turn them into the most exquisite dishes: roasts, pies, soups, and even sweet desserts. However, Eliza soon realized that while the pot was incredible, it also created some problems. The villagers started to rely too much on the magic pot, neglecting their own cooking skills and creativity. The joy of cooking and sharing their own recipes seemed to diminish. The pot's magic, though wonderful, was beginning to overshadow the simple pleasures of their daily lives. One day, as Eliza watched her friends and neighbors depend more and more on the pot, she made a decision. She gathered everyone in the village square and announced, "The magic pot has brought us many wonderful meals, but it's important to remember the value of our own talents and traditions. I believe it's time for the pot to go on a new journey." With that, Eliza took the pot to the edge of the village and placed it gently under a large, ancient oak tree. She whispered her thanks and left a note that read, "To whomever finds this pot, use it wisely and remember to cherish your own gifts as well." The next morning, the magic pot was gone, and though the villagers were initially disheartened, they soon rediscovered the joy of cooking for themselves. They began to experiment with new recipes, share their cooking secrets, and enjoy meals made with love and creativity. As for the magic pot, it was found by a wandering traveler who took it with him on his own adventures. The pot continued to spread delight wherever it went, but it was always passed on with a reminder of the importance of cherishing one's own gifts and talents. And so, the village thrived, not just because of the magic pot, but because they had learned to appreciate the magic within themselves. Once upon a time, in a bustling city of towering skyscrapers and advanced technology, there lived a brilliant inventor and superhero named Tony Stark. Known to the world as Iron Man, Tony was famous for his incredible suits of armor that gave him superhuman strength, flight, and an array of futuristic gadgets. One day, while tinkering in his high-tech workshop, Tony received an urgent message on his computer. The message came from an old friend, Dr. Maya Hansen, a renowned archaeologist. Dr. Hansen had discovered an ancient map leading to a mysterious lost city, rumored to be filled with untold treasures and powerful artifacts. However, the map was incomplete, and she needed Tony's help to solve the mystery. Intrigued by the adventure and eager to help his friend, Tony donned his Iron Man suit and flew to Dr. Hansen's research facility. When he arrived, Dr. Hansen greeted him with excitement and handed him the ancient map. "This map is said to lead to the lost city of Lumina," Dr. Hansen explained. "But it's only part of the way. We need to find the missing pieces to complete it and locate the city." Tony examined the map closely. It was adorned with strange symbols and intricate designs that seemed to hint at hidden clues. "I'll help you find the missing pieces," Tony said with determination. "But we'll need to be careful. The lost city is rumored to be protected by ancient traps and guardians." The two set off on their quest, following the clues on the map. Their journey took them through dense jungles, across treacherous mountains, and into deep, dark caves. Each step was filled with challenges, hidden traps, mysterious puzzles, and cryptic riddles that tested their wits and teamwork. In one particularly challenging cave, they encountered a series of mechanical traps that seemed to be ancient yet remarkably advanced. Tony's Iron Man suit was put to the test as he used its sensors and technology to navigate the dangers and disarm the traps. Dr. Hansen deciphered the riddles inscribed on the cave walls, guiding Tony through each obstacle. Finally, after days of relentless effort, they reached the entrance of the lost city of Lumina. The city was magnificent, with towering spires, glistening fountains, and structures that seemed to glow with an ethereal light. It was clear that Lumina had once been a place of great knowledge and power. As they explored the city, they discovered a grand chamber at its heart, filled with ancient artifacts and scrolls. In the center of the chamber was a pedestal with a shimmering crystal. The crystal was surrounded by inscriptions that hinted at its incredible power. Dr. Hansen approached the pedestal with awe. This crystal is said to hold the wisdom of the ancient Luminians. It could change the world with its knowledge. Just then, the chamber began to rumble. Once upon a time, in a kingdom nestled between rolling hills and lush forests, there lived a princess named Alara. Known for her kindness and bravery, she had won the hearts of her people with her compassionate deeds. However, the kingdom was overshadowed by a dark legend, an ancient curse that had transformed a once noble prince into a fearsome beast. The beast, whose name was Prince Eric, resided in a grand but isolated castle deep within the forest. The curse had been cast by a vengeful sorceress many years ago, and no one knew how to break it. The prince, trapped in his monstrous form, was said to be fierce and dangerous, and the kingdom's people lived in fear of his wrath. One day, Alara's father, the king, fell gravely ill. The royal physicians were unable to cure him, and as his condition worsened, Alara learned of an old legend that spoke of a powerful artifact hidden within the beast's castle, a gem with the ability to heal any ailment. Desperate to save her father, Alara decided to venture into the forest to retrieve the gem. Equipped with her courage and determination, Alara set out on her quest. The journey through the forest was treacherous, filled with twisted trees and eerie sounds. Yet, Alara pressed on, guided by the hope of saving her father. She finally reached the castle, its towering spires and darkened halls intimidating and foreboding. As she entered the castle, she was greeted by an array of mysterious and magical creatures that served the beast. Despite their initial wariness, they recognized Alara's noble heart and allowed her to continue her search. Deep within the castle's labyrinthine corridors, Alara found herself face to face with Prince Eric. The beast was as fearsome as the legends had described. With eyes that glowed like embers and a roar that echoed through the hallways. But Alara, unyielding in her mission, stood her ground. "I seek the gem that can save my father," she declared, her voice steady despite her fear. Prince Eric, initially enraged by her intrusion, was taken aback by her bravery. He had not seen a human approach him with such resolve and kindness in many years. The beast, still holding onto fragments of his humanity, was touched by her selfless intent. "I cannot let you take it," Eric growled, though his voice was less menacing than before. "The gem is bound to the curse. Taking it would only bring further suffering." Alara's heart went out to the beast, seeing the torment and loneliness behind his fearsome exterior. "There must be a way to break the curse," she pleaded. "Help me find a solution, and I will ensure the gem is used wisely." Intrigued by her compassion and sensing the possibility of redemption, Eric agreed to assist Alara. He revealed that the gem was indeed part of a spell, but the true key to breaking the curse lay in an act of pure love. The beast had to prove his own capacity for selflessness and kindness, and in return, the curse would be lifted. Determined to help Eric, Alara and the beast worked together, overcoming challenges and unlocking secrets hidden within the castle. Through their shared journey, a bond of mutual respect and understanding formed. Eric's heart, once hardened by years of solitude and rage, began to soften under Alara's unwavering kindness. As they reached the final test of the curse, Eric performed an act of ultimate sacrifice, giving up the gem to save Alara from a perilous trap. His selfless action, driven by love and genuine concern for another, proved his redemption. With the curse broken, the beast's monstrous form began to dissolve, revealing the prince's true appearance. Prince Eric was restored to his former self, handsome and noble, but forever changed by the experience.
Once upon a time, in the heart of the Pacific Ocean, there was a hidden island known only to a few. This island was the home of ancient and powerful creatures. Among them, the legendary Godzilla, a colossal being with scales as hard as steel and a roar that could shake the earth. Godzilla was a guardian of sorts, a creature of immense power who had emerged from the depths of the ocean to maintain the balance of nature. For centuries, he had kept the island and its mystical energies safe from those who would exploit them. One day, a massive earthquake struck the region. The tremors were so severe that they disturbed the island's delicate ecosystem and awakened an ancient evil that had been dormant for millennia. This evil took the form of a monstrous entity known as Titanus Gorgon. Titanus Gorgon, a serpent-like creature with a gaze that could petrify anything it looked upon, began to wreak havoc, turning the island's lush forests into lifeless stone and threatening to spread its curse to the surrounding world. The people living on the nearby mainland were terrified, their cities and towns feeling the effects of the Gorgon's curse. Realizing the gravity of the situation, Godzilla rose from the ocean depths and made his way to the island. His massive form cut through the waves with purpose, and his eyes burned with determination. As he approached the island, he could see the devastation Titanus Gorgon had wrought. The two titans clashed in a battle that shook the heavens and split the ground. Godzilla's atomic breath and sheer strength met Titanus Gorgon's petrifying gaze and slithering speed. The fight was fierce, with Godzilla using his tail and claws to fend off the serpent's deadly attacks, while Titanus Gorgon's gaze turned parts of the island into stone. In the heat of battle, Godzilla noticed that Titanus Gorgon's gaze had a rhythm. It wasn't constant. There were moments when the gaze was weaker. Seizing the opportunity, Godzilla dodged and countered with all his might. He unleashed a powerful atomic breath that struck Titanus Gorgon directly, causing the serpent to writhe in agony. As the battle reached its climax, Godzilla harnessed all his strength and unleashed a final, devastating atomic blast. The beam struck Titanus Gorgon's core, breaking the creature's petrifying power and causing it to disintegrate into nothingness. The curse over the island lifted, and life began to slowly return to normal. The people on the mainland rejoiced as the curse was lifted, and they celebrated Godzilla as a hero. However, the giant monster did not seek fame or recognition. He simply returned to his realm beneath the waves, ready to protect the balance of nature whenever it was needed. The island was restored, its lush forests thriving once more. The legend of Godzilla grew, not just as a creature of immense power, but as a protector who defended the world from ancient evils. And so, the balance of nature was maintained, thanks to the heroic efforts of the colossal guardian known as Godzilla.
In the bustling city of New York, there lived a teenager named Peter Parker. By day, Peter was a regular high school student, juggling homework, friendships, and his part-time job at a local diner. But by night, he transformed into Spider-Man, the city's friendly neighborhood superhero. Peter's journey into heroism began when he was bitten by a radioactive spider during a science exhibit at the museum. The bite granted him incredible abilities, super strength, agility, and the ability to cling to walls. He crafted a web-shooting device, and with a deep sense of responsibility, he donned a red and blue costume to fight crime and protect the people of New York. One day, a new threat emerged in the city. A formidable villain known as the Shadow Master appeared. Unlike other villains, the Shadow Master had the ability to manipulate darkness and shadows, making him nearly impossible to detect. His goal was to plunge New York into perpetual darkness, allowing him to rule over the city unseen and unchallenged. As the Shadow Master's shadowy minions began to wreak havoc, Peter Parker felt the weight of the city's plight. He swung through the streets, fighting crime and saving civilians, but the relentless darkness made it difficult for him to keep up. Desperate for a solution, Peter sought the advice of his mentor, Tony Stark, also known as Iron Man. Tony invited Peter to his high-tech lab and examined the devices Peter had used. He noticed that while Peter's web shooters were impressive, they lacked the capacity to counteract the unique powers of the Shadow Master. With a few adjustments and some Stark technology, Tony equipped Peter with a new set of web shooters that could emit a special light frequency designed to disrupt shadows. Armed with his upgraded gadgets, Spider-Man resumed his fight against the Shadow Master. The battle was intense. The villain used his control over darkness to disorient Spider-Man, but Peter's quick thinking and the new light-based webbing allowed him to navigate through the shadows and strike back. In a climactic confrontation atop a skyscraper, Spider-Man finally faced the Shadow Master. The villain attempted to engulf the entire city in darkness, but Peter used his new webbing to create a blinding beam of light. This light pierced through the darkness, revealing the Shadow Master and nullifying his powers. With his abilities rendered useless, the Shadow Master was defeated and apprehended. As dawn broke over New York, the city slowly returned to normal. People emerged from their homes, marveling at the sight of Spider-Man swinging across the skyline, his red and blue suit shining brightly in the morning sun. The city was safe once more, thanks to Spider-Man's bravery and resilience. Back at school, Peter Parker tried to return to his normal life, but he couldn't shake the feeling of pride that came from being a hero. He knew that with great power came great responsibility, and he was committed to using his abilities to protect his city. And so, Spider-Man continued his patrols, ever vigilant, swinging through the city he loved. The streets of New York knew that as long as Spider-Man was around, they had a hero who would always be there to fight the shadows and bring hope to the people of the city. Once upon a time, in a vibrant little village nestled between rolling hills and lush meadows, lived a spirited young girl named Sunny Sunshine. Known affectionately by the villagers as Sol Solicito, Sunny had a remarkable gift. She could bring light and warmth wherever she went. Sunny's house was a quaint, cozy cottage with windows that always seemed to sparkle, even on the cloudiest days. Her garden was a riot of colors, with flowers that bloomed in all shades of the rainbow. The village folks often marveled at how the flowers in her garden always seemed to shine a little brighter and bloom a little earlier than anywhere else. Every morning, Sunny would set out on her daily walk, her golden hair glowing like sunlight. As she wandered through the village, she'd greet everyone with her cheerful smile and a sunny disposition that had the uncanny ability to chase away the grayest of clouds. One summer, the village faced an unusual problem. The weather turned unusually cold and gloomy, and a long spell of rain made the villagers worried. The crops were suffering, and the usually lively festivals were subdued by the endless drizzle. The villagers tried everything they could think of to bring back the sunshine, but nothing seemed to work. One day, as the villagers gathered in the town square to discuss their woes, Sunny appeared with her usual bright smile. She was carrying a basket filled with golden sun-shaped cookies she had baked. As she shared them with everyone, she told them a story about how sunshine wasn't just something you could see, it was something you had to feel and share. Sunny suggested that if everyone shared a bit of their own warmth and kindness, they might be able to bring back the sunshine. At first, the villagers were skeptical, but they decided to give it a try. They started helping each other more, offering a kind word, sharing their own talents, and working together to lift each other's spirits. As the days passed, something magical began to happen. The gloomy clouds seemed to lighten, and the rain started to ease. The flowers in Sunny's garden began to bloom even more vibrantly, and the village was filled with laughter and joy. The villagers noticed that even when it rained, they could still feel a warm, comforting glow that made everything seem brighter. One morning, after a particularly lovely night of clear skies and twinkling stars, the sun returned in full force. The villagers cheered and celebrated, knowing that Sunny's wisdom had guided them through the storm. The village held a grand festival to honor their beloved Sol Solicito, and Sunny's radiant smile shone brighter than ever. From that day forward, the village always remembered the lesson Sunny had taught them, that true sunshine comes from the heart. And so, the village flourished, with every person carrying a bit of Sunny's light within them, ensuring that their days were always filled with warmth and joy. Once upon a time, In a sunlit meadow surrounded by rolling hills and whispering trees, there was a clever crow named Colin. Colin had sleek, black feathers and a sharp, inquisitive beak. He was known throughout the meadow for his intelligence and resourcefulness. One hot summer day, Colin was flying over the meadow, feeling the heat of the sun beating down on him. His beak was parched, and his throat was dry from the lack of water. As he flew in search of a cool drink, he spotted something glistening in the distance. With renewed hope, Colin fluttered his wings and headed toward the source of the sparkle. When he arrived, he discovered a tall, narrow pitcher that had been left out by the humans. Inside the pitcher was a small amount of water, but it was too low for Colin to reach with his beak. The pitcher's narrow neck made it impossible for him to get his beak inside. Colin peered at the water with frustration. If only I could reach the water, he thought. I'm so thirsty. He tried to tip the pitcher over, but it was too heavy for him to move. He pecked at the water inside, but his beak couldn't reach. Colin's mind raced as he thought of ways to solve his problem. After a few moments of contemplation, Colin noticed some small pebbles scattered around the meadow. An idea began to form in his clever mind. He hopped over to the pebbles, picked up one with his beak, and flew back to the pitcher. Colin dropped the pebble into the pitcher, and as he watched, the water level rose a tiny bit. He tested the idea by dropping in another pebble. Slowly but surely, the water level continued to rise with each pebble that sank to the bottom. Colin kept working diligently, dropping pebble after pebble into the pitcher. As the water rose higher, Colin began to see the surface of the water. He was still not quite able to reach it with his beak, but he didn't give up. With persistence, he continued to add pebbles until the water level was finally high enough for him to drink. With a triumphant caw, Colin took a long, satisfying drink from the pitcher. The cool water refreshed him, and he felt much better. Colin's clever thinking had saved him from his thirst, and he was proud of his resourcefulness. Feeling grateful and content, Colin flew up into the sky, his feathers shimmering in the sunlight. As he soared over the meadow, he looked down at the pitcher with a sense of accomplishment. He had solved his problem with ingenuity and perseverance. The moral of Colin's story spread throughout the meadow. Where there's a will, there's a way. Even when faced with challenges, cleverness and persistence can lead to success. A giant oak stood near a brook in which grew some slender reeds. When the wind blew, the great oak stood proudly upright with its 100 arms uplifted to the sky. But the reeds bowed low in the wind and sang a sad and mournful song. "You have reason to complain," said the oak. "The slightest breeze that ruffles the surface of the water makes you bow your heads, while I, the mighty oak, stand upright and firm before the howling tempest." "Do not worry about us," replied the reeds. "The winds do not harm us. We bow before them, and so we do not break. You, in all your pride and strength, have so far resisted their blows. But the end is coming." As the reeds spoke, a great hurricane rushed out of the north. The oak stood proudly and fought against the storm, while the yielding reeds bowed low. The wind redoubled in fury, and all at once the great tree fell, torn up by the roots, and lay among the pitying reeds. The owl always takes her sleep during the day. Then after sundown, when the rosy light fades from the sky and the shadows rise slowly through the wood, out she comes ruffling and blinking from the old hollow tree. Now her weird hoo-hoo-hoo-oh-oh echoes through the quiet wood, and she begins her hunt for the bugs and beetles, frogs and mice she likes so well to eat. Now there was a certain old owl who had become very cross and hard to please as she grew older, especially if anything disturbed her daily slumbers. One warm summer afternoon, as she dozed away in her den in the old oak tree, a grasshopper nearby began a joyous, but very raspy song. Out popped the old owl's head from the opening in the tree that served her both for door and for window. "Get away from here, sir," she said to the grasshopper. "Have you no manners? You should at least respect my age and leave me to sleep in quiet." But the grasshopper answered saucily that he had as much right to his place in the sun as the owl had to her place in the old oak. Then he struck up a louder and still more rasping tune. The wise old owl knew quite well that it would do no good to argue with the grasshopper, nor with anybody else for that matter. Besides, her eyes were not sharp enough by day to permit her to punish the grasshopper as he deserved. So she laid aside all hard words and spoke very kindly to him. "Well, sir," she said, "if I must stay awake, I am going to settle right down to enjoy your singing. Now that I think of it, I have a wonderful wine here, sent me from Olympus, of which I am told Apollo drinks before he sings to the high gods. Please come up and taste this delicious drink with me. I know it will make you sing like Apollo himself." The foolish grasshopper was taken in by the owl's flattering words. Up he jumped to the owl.